Today, we're diving deep into a pivotal time many experience: hormonal changes after 40. If you've ever wondered, why do my moods, energy, or sleep feel so unpredictable? Or what can I do to feel more like myself again? You're not alone, and we're going to get to the bottom of it. I'll be answering real questions from listeners just like you and sharing practical ways to navigate these changes with confidence and grace. Because when you understand your hormones, you unlock a smoother path forward. I'm Dr. Stacie Stevenson, the Wellness Detective. Let's investigate.
Our first question comes from London, England. Olivia asks, Dr. Stacie, I think I just started perimenopause, but no one ever really prepared me for this stage. I feel like I'm constantly trying to catch up with what my body's doing. What's the first thing I need to do?
You think you just started perimenopause, so what's the first thing you need to do? Well, I would get a good gynecological baseline. Make sure that what you're thinking is accurate. Yeah, get that baseline. Get your mammogram baseline. Get your gynecologic baseline. Get a good full physical, full body examination. I would get even your cardiac baseline. I would take that moment in time to, we used to sort of call it executive physical. I think that's a joke. It's really just a really, really thorough physical that everyone should have occasionally in their lifetime. But I would take that moment to gather your information. If you can, get your nutrient levels analyzed if you'd like to. You might start keeping a bit of a diary of your symptomology, and it doesn't have to be every day, but start keeping track a little bit better of what you're experiencing, what's going on in your life. Put some dates to it. Maybe it's only once a month that you sit down and just write a sentence or two or three about a sort of a journal of your experience. And that might prove helpful to you later with a health professional. I love the idea of journaling and keeping track of your own thoughts and experiences because we kind of tend to freeze up when we see our health professional. Get the baseline. Get all of your, anything that you might be concerned about in your family history. Get those baselines. If you have worried about cognitive issues in your future, if you're worried about Alzheimer's or dementia, that's in your family, things like that, or you just want to know, I would take that time frame to get your baseline and just kind of let your body kind of do its thing. If you want to get really aggressive, which is what actually I did, and this is more radical and people don't really love it because we like to just wait till something's broken and then we try to repair it. If I were being really radical, I'd say test your microbiome, even go that far and get even a baseline there. And that's what I meant by radical. And then this is your decision point during perimenopause. Get your hormones checked. I mean, get those baselines too. Clean up your diet, clean up your lifestyle, get your fitness in order. I mean, think of that time as sort of getting your house in order. You can't just live anymore on, I don't really have to do much with my health. I'll wait till it's broken. I won't worry about anything. Now, you don't have to worry, but I think it's time to get organized. So I think we could definitely kind of make a checklist of getting organized. Get your dental care evaluated, by the way, because you will start to see changes in oral health in that time of life also. So don't forget your dentist. If you want to really level out that hormonal experience during that phase, you might begin oral progesterone therapy. And that's what I was going to say is considered slightly radical. If you basically what I'm saying is if you want to make a decision that you don't want to experience any symptoms or very limited symptoms, or you want to prolong menstruation, which by the way is possible through cycling of hormones, that's a whole different discussion, and it's kind of difficult and it's fairly aggressive. There's no downside to it except it's just work. But that's the stage you have to do it because you can't pick that back up 2 or 3 years later when things have gotten worse. So don't be tricked that you should wait and not begin any hormone supplementation therapy in that phase, unless you just don't want to. And remember, you can do your natural therapies and begin some bioidentical progesterone replacement.
Next question is a good follow-up to that from Elise. She wants to know, I hear a lot about natural therapies. What are some good ones I should adapt as I get older?
Working on your fitness, building your muscle mass, building your bone mass, getting your supplements in order, making sure you're getting essential oils, making sure you're getting all your vitamins and minerals, making sure you're getting your vitamin D, making sure you're supporting your immune system, making sure you're supporting your stress. So I think what I'm saying here is I can't give you a pill that's a perimenopause pill. That doesn't exist. If that's what you're at. Like, there isn't a natural analog. Now, there are plants that mimic very similarly certain hormones, and that's different than a bioidentical created hormone in a lab. Wild yam, for example, has a similar component to human being estrogen, and women have used extract of wild yam forever in natural medicine and made it a cream and rubs on areas, and that can often ease symptoms. Evening primrose oil is just a calming, wonderful oil that is known to be helpful with sleep. This is a time when you could use melatonin. This is a time when you should learn your meditation. See, to me, lifestyle changes are natural medicine. I think when people ask me what's an alternative to natural medicine, they want me to give you a pill. We are so trained on pills. Just like, okay, I don't want to take the pharmaceutical, so what natural medicine do I take? Wrong answer. It's not never, by the way, that exists here and there, but generally that's the wrong question. I get what you're saying. You're saying, I don't want to take the pharmaceutical. Okay, fine. I want to do it a different route. Well, the different route isn't just here's a different pill. The different route most of the time is multifactorial and requires a little bit more conscious work, but you probably should have been doing it anyway. And it probably is a little bit more complicated. It's just not an easy one. Natural medicine isn't, this is the pharmaceutical substance and this is the natural substance. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't.
We have a question from someone from Minnesota. She wrote, Dr. Stacie, I'm worried about taking hormone replacement therapy. My primary care doctor suggested it for me at my age. I see a lot of warnings. What's your advice?
I think hormone replacement therapy is a really important part of your arsenal in moving through this very complicated, busy, intense, toxic lifestyle, longer lifespans, poorer health spans. I personally, I'm going to tell you, I've changed. So 15 years ago, I worked really hard to not give people synthetic estrogens. I would never give people synthetic estrogens now still. But we didn't have many choices. So I had to figure out other routes. But most of the time in my earlier career, I didn't want to give exogenous hormones. The dosing was just too high. It was just really intense. There were lots of concerns about cancer, and it was real. There were concerns about cardiac health, and it was real. And so there was this generation of, we tried to get women through all these things without any supplementation. And let me change that wording of replacement, because you are never going to replace that which nature would have made. What we're really doing now is HST, which is hormone supplementation therapy. And we should be doing it with bioidentical hormones, and we should be doing the lowest dose with the least side effects that works for that human being and just edges away those symptoms. But the switch is today, I would definitely be encouraging hormone supplementation therapy much more strongly than I did a decade ago. And I do it because it is a bit more of a shortcut. The bioidentical hormones are much more available, but not as much as I would like. They're constantly threatened. The bioidentical hormones are constantly threatened by um, health authorities because they're made in smaller batches, is one issue, and they're designed specifically for that person. So the dosage varies, and that's not really appreciated in traditional medicine in general. We want a one size fits all. Here's your pill. Take your pill every day. That's how it works. We don't want to personalize. We don't want to make something just for you. That's not how it works. This is good enough. Blah blah blah. But over time, I've become a much greater advocate of hormone supplementation therapy because it's become gentler. That's the only reason. The industry in general has moved in that direction, but they've moved in that direction because of consumers. If I'd been able to get a hold of consistent bioidentical hormones 15 years ago, and you could do it. It just was very difficult. It took time. The patients had to be patient. The pharmacists had to be willing to work through and create these substances with their knowledge base. And so it's kind of a cottage industry almost, and it needed to be creams and it needed to be injections, and you had to teach people how to use things. And it was a project to do hormone supplementation a decade ago, 15 years ago. Now it's less of a project. And I really support the maintenance of bone density. That is critical. It's huge. You can't eliminate weight-bearing exercise and just take your estrogen replacement and expect that your bones are going to be okay. It is only a part, but it's a really important part.
The next question is from Serena Q. She asks, I am hearing about bioidentical hormones. What are they? And what are the pros and cons?
Ooh, bioidentical hormone. That's a good question. Okay, so I'm going to give you just a tiny little bit of history. The first exogenous, which meaning external hormone that we began to give people in large populations of people was insulin. And because if you don't have insulin, you die. Simple as that. And as you all well know, insulin is a hormone. Diabetes is a disease that's in 8% of the population. Unfortunately, it used to be more like 3 to 4% of the population. Let's do another episode on diabetes, maybe. But so what physicians at the time realized is that they figured they needed an animal, and that they needed to harvest the hormone insulin from an animal. Well, it just so happened that pigs' insulin was fairly close to human being insulin in the sequencing of the actual hormone itself. So people went, oh, aha. I mean, we slaughter pigs. Everybody eats pork. We'll use the pancreas. Well, not everybody eats pork, but it was a big food in especially in the 30s, 40s, 50s, right? So the idea became, we will provide diabetic persons with diabetes to save their life. We will harvest insulin from the pancreas of a pig. That's all there was to it. Guess what? That was the first and closest idea to bioidentical, even though it wasn't identical. So we used a hormone from an animal to give to a human being, and it saved that human being's life. And we figured out that human beings would read that pig insulin almost as similarly as if they'd made the insulin themselves. Not perfectly, but enough to save their life. Today, insulin is not harvested from pigs anymore, because we learned that it did differ in enough ways that we could really make it much, much more closer to the human being aspect. But the idea in those earlier days of hormone therapies were to save people's lives. They weren't to make a better just quality of life. The pharmaceutical companies come along and go, aha, wait a minute. We can't really make enough money off animals. We need to make a pharmaceutical patentable product in order to package it, probably adjust the dosing correctly, and market it to the health professionals. The health professionals will then market it to the public, and the cycle will continue. Well, they didn't do a very good job of that either. So bioidentical a lot of times meant creams, it meant injections, it meant that's how the patches came into being. The pellets under the skin is really bioidentical hormones. All those delivery systems, because it's not just about finding the substance, it's about how do you deliver it so the person can actually utilize the hormone. And taking a pill by mouth is almost never the best delivery.
And the last question on hormones over 40 comes from a woman in Albany, New York. Dr. Stacie, I am on various therapies via a doctor's suggestion. They seem to be helping, but if I stop all therapies, everything just comes back again?
If you stop all therapies, does everything pretty much come back? Yes. More or less. Actually though, that's going to be a case-by-case basis. If your real struggle was stress and you utilize a bioidentical hormone for a year or two, and in the meantime of that year or two, you've really gotten in management of your stress and you decide, I'm going to try not take that anymore. Remember, you don't have to take hormone supplementation. It is only a choice. It is not the natural human evolution. We're pushing the envelope by even giving this. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get you farther down the road with fewer effects, negative effects of aging that slow down your enjoyment of life. We're not proposing that by hormone supplementation therapy, we are going to extend your lifespan to 150. We're not proposing that. We're saying, you know what? One of the worst causes of death and or sort of that road to death and disability are fractures in ladies, over 70. That's like the road to their death many times. And it could have been, we can't necessarily prevent that fall. Hopefully we can. But we could have started 2 decades or 3 decades before in preparing their bone density, for example. So I'm sad that we get up to the plate and all of a sudden we have symptoms. The more we dial back looking at your developmental aging, and we know as providers essentially what's going to happen. We can pretty well examine you in your 30s, understand your lifestyle. Let's just say where you are now. We can understand your stress. We could understand your lifestyle. We could get a pretty good psychological understanding. We could analyze your blood. We could analyze your heart. We could analyze your bones. And I can tell you, and know a little bit about your family, not your 12th cousin twice removed, by the way. It's really just your first degree relatives, which means mom, dad, and siblings. Don't worry about everybody else, please. Don't worry that some cousin had this or that. It doesn't matter. We can pretty much map in our heads the trajectory of your longevity. I can't say we can say you're going to live till 85 or 90 or 70. We can't say any of that. We can't predict trauma. But metabolically, by 35 or so, we know about what your horizon is. And so the entire supplementation movement of hormones is to blunt the bad experiences that we know could be lurking in your future. Just like we tried to blunt the diabetes potential, right? And we're losing that battle. We're trying to blunt the cancer potential because we know if you make it to certain ages without cancer, guess what? You're not going to die of cancer. Not with absolute certainty, but the likelihood in advanced ages of dying of cancer goes down and down and down and down. So if we can get you there, you're going to have you're not going to probably suffer from a severe, it's probably not going to kill you. You might die with a cancer in your body, but it probably isn't what's going to kill you at 89 if you've never had cancer. It's the same idea for fractures and bone density in ladies. Men, by the way, get more and more troubles with their bones, but it's at much more advanced ages. But we need to be looking at their horizon as well. So the supplementation movement and the hormone replacement movement, the anti-aging movement, the living longer, living better, living more healthfully, health span. It's about kind of kicking the can so that we can, whatever your genetically natural lifespan is more or less encoded in your DNA, our goal is that you get to experience that as best that you possibly can and to the best of our current abilities. And we're learning that hormone supplementation is probably a big part of that. And that's why I've really changed over time. Thanks for joining me on The Wellness Detective today. Midlife isn't about decline. It's a time of transformation and new possibilities. Your hormones, energy, and mindset may shift, but understanding these changes can empower you to take control. Here's the bottom line. By tuning into your body, prioritizing quality sleep, balancing nutrition, managing stress, and staying active, you can navigate midlife with strength and clarity. Small, consistent habits add up, helping you feel more vibrant, confident, and in charge of your wellness journey. If this episode helped you, please subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone ready to embrace midlife with strength and clarity. And don't forget, you can always send your questions my way at drstaciestevenson.com. I might just answer it on a future episode. Until next time, be your own wellness detective, listen to your body, and be kind to yourself. I'm Dr. Stacie Stevenson, wishing you joy and vibrant health every day.